Okay, today I thought I'd be a little ambitious and I'm going to try and install some inner fender covers on this Jeep. A couple of reasons I'm doing that is if you've seen my other videos, this inner fender here with this 392 engine has a little bit of a warping issue, I think due to the heat caused by the engine. So I've opted to put in some metal inner fender well covers in here, but to find a model or a brand that I liked, it's been difficult. What I've been wanting to do is install them, but I wanted to keep this plastic up under the fender. I wanted to keep most of it in place. The reason for that is a lot of times when you see that the inner fenders have been replaced, this is all gone and it leaves kind of an unfinished look up here. There's a couple of mounting points, brackets that stick out. It makes it difficult to clean under here because it's just got, you know, a bunch of, I guess, area up in here that just collects mud and dirt and stuff. So I wanted to keep this plastic fender as much as I could to help with keeping that clean and also keeping the look clean. I have not found any aftermarket inner fenders that provide a cover in this area here. They all just come along, basically along here, mount up along the body of the Jeep, and then all of this is exposed up here. So my ambitious project for today is I am going to install some inner fender covers, but I am going to try and install them and then I'm going to trace the line where they go, and I'm going to cut that plastic with a little bit of tab between and try and leave the plastic as much as I can, and then have the fenders meet up with the plastic edge and see how that looks. If this video gets posted, you know it was a success. If it doesn't ever see the light of day and you just see this Jeep with inner fender wells or inner fender covers, you know that it didn't work out as planned, but that's the project for today. Okay, the brand I went with after doing a lot of research is American Adventure Lab. So this is the brand. I'm going to open up the box, see what they sent, and I'll explain kind of why I went with this brand. Not only is it a local, fairly local company, but I like the look. These aren't over-branded. I like things fairly simple and a clean look. So that's why I went with these. American Adventure Lab. It's a company out of St. George, which isn't too far from here. You know, I'll show you why I went with this look. Instructions. Okay, this is what was in the box. You've got the larger fender, inner fender liners here, and these pieces bolt on. If you can see that, this says P on that, and that means passenger side. And these are the brackets for the passenger side, brackets for the driver's side. If you can see the D for the driver right there. Comes with all the mounting hardware, of course the instructions. And the reason I went with American Adventure Lab, besides having a logo that's not in your face, it's a clean look, they offered the option of this insert here of choosing a color. And what I opted to do was I had them put this bronze powder coated insert here that matches the trim or the accent color on the Jeep Wrangler 392. Okay, parking brake is on. Wheels are chalked. Jack stands are ready. And I've got the jack ready to go. So let's get this wheel off and get some measuring done and get this venture started. So I'm going to install the driver's side first. Problem I have is driver's side shows 2 panels and I have 3. 1, 2, and I assume this is 3. And the reason for that difference is the 392 or the JT, although these instructions don't account for this 3rd piece. I assume these line up, so that's where it bolts on, somewhere like that. These line up, and that looks like it's the piece here, although the shape's a little bit different. We will find out. I'll put these together and we'll see. And I know this is the driver's side because the American Adventure Lab logo goes forward towards the front bumper. So driver's side and everything else seems to line up. I'll double check with the passenger side. We'll see how it goes together. The first step, it says obviously you need to take out this fender liner. I'm leaving this in here so when I get the kind of just mocked up on a couple of mounting points, the inner fender liner, I'll have a line to scribe on that plastic. One of the first things, and you see the D on there, one of the first things it says to do is mount this first mount right here. And I don't know if you can see that. That hole lines up just fine. And I'm gonna have to drill that out a little bit because the self-tapping screws that it, or bolts that it comes with are a little bit big. And then you have a little spacer to make up for that little jog in the frame there. Little spacer that goes behind there. So this will be the first one I mount. The other one goes back in here. And then I hopefully will be able to get this inner fender liner on and scribe along that plastic. So that's what I'm gonna head for now. So this video clip is of the passenger side because I failed to record on the driver's side. But this is mount position 1 and it pretty much mirrors mount position 1 on the driver's side. Okay, even though this is step 4 on the instructions, this is gonna be step 2 for me. I'm installing this other bracket right here. It goes right behind this this piece of plastic on the fender liner here, and these 2 Zerp fittings go in these Christmas tree holes, one here and one obviously up here that I have to pull out to mount this in. So I'll get that mounted. Like I said, it's step 2 for me, step 4 on the instructions. This piece you don't save, it gets thrown away. Just got back from a trip to Moab last week and you can see the red sand still kind of all caked in there. So that piece goes away. So now that that's out, this goes in here. All right, so there's the right piece. You can see it's got 2 D's on it. In the instructions, it's got 1 D. So that's what threw me off a little bit. And it's a little bit different shape. It doesn't have, it's not straight here. This one's scalloped. And the reason for this is this fender liner is different for the 392 and the JT. If you have a regular Rubicon or another model other than the 392, they have a different fender liner, the brackets, for those models. The reason for that is because of this window washer reservoir here, it's a little bit different than the other models on the JT and the 392. So that's probably why the instructions are a little bit different. These are probably just pretty much standard, universal, and this is a special part for this vehicle. So now I can get that in there, it looks like, without any issues. Okay, so my next step now is I'm going to get that fender liner put together and then set it in place and get that marked. Looks like to me is if you got a regular Rubicon or other model, you would get these two pieces and they would marry together like so. Because this is the JT or the 392 model, this is an extra piece that has to bolt in there. What threw me off was these bolts are already threaded in this piece and they aren't here. So I wasn't sure if this went in the fender, but it looks like this hole probably lines up with that fourth position mount that I put in, and those other holes mount up, line up together as well. So I'm going to take these out and I'm going to loosely put this together because again I'm going to have some wiggle room, and then I'll put Loctite on it when I put it back together permanently. All right, there's the fender put together. The three pieces put, so that's the driver's side inner fender well. I'm gonna put this, mount it up on the position 1 and position 4 mounts. The position 2 and position 3 are not in place, but I'm gonna try and get it up there, then scribe along the line of the fender so I can mark the plastic and know where to cut. And then I'm going to try and cut that plastic. I'm going to remove the fender well, cut the plastic, and I'm going to try and leave a little bit, about an inch gap or so behind there so it can sit behind. And if I need to cut out the tabs or drill some holes with the plastic, I'll do that. And then I've got the heat gun back here that if I need to melt the plastic a little bit to reform it or shape it to get around some of these tabs or back behind, I may have to do that. So get this placed, see how it looks, and go from there. Okay, so here's the inner fender. And I've got where it sits. Right here is where these holes line up. And this just goes in, these lock in with these quarter turn or half turn fittings. See if I can get one to stay, to hold it up there while I scribe around the top. So there, that's locked in. These are quick release, so if I decide to, when you want to pull it off and clean it or access under there, it's just a quarter turn, half turn, and they pop off. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, it looks like. So, getting this into place here, the other hole is right over here. I'm not sure I can get it to line up with that fender in there. So what I'm going to do is kind of hold it in place there a little bit, where I think it should go. And then I'm going to scribe along here. You can see how much of that plastic is going to be left. So if I cut, looks like right under these mounts here, somewhere under here, and I'll loose cut it first, and then as I go I'll probably have to cut more as I go, but I wanted to get an idea of where to trim, so I can leave as much of that in there as I can. I'll get this scribe along here. All right, take this off. See where my line is, and then I'll probably trim inside that line quite a bit. I'm going to run some tape along that line so it doesn't rub off, and then I'll work back from there or work in either way. But I'll probably cut it wide for the first cut. All right, get this inner fender liner out. You got to get these Christmas tree plugs, and it looks like there's one here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at the back, and then you got, it looks like 1, 2, 3 10 millimeter bolts. So we'll work on these Christmas tree plugs first and go around. All right, let's see how easy this comes out. Just like that. So this is why I want to leave that plastic up in here. As you can see, all these wires, this, you know, these brackets here, it's just not kind of a clean environment under here to throw a bunch of mud and everything else up underneath there. And those fender liners just cover, you know, basically this area here. It doesn't go all the way up underneath and cover all this up in here. So that was my thinking of why I want to keep that plastic here, is just to keep all these wires, and clearly it still throws mud all the way up in here, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to protect and cover in here. So before I cut, I'm going to get those other mounts mounted. I've got, like I said, I've got mount 1 and mount 4 right here, and now I've got to get 1 and 2, get those installed, and then cut that fender and get it all put back and cross our fingers that it works. The position 2 mount is a little more difficult. It goes right here behind, and you can see these 2 clips. And these 2 clips are also covered by just some plastic that's right in the way. So I'm going to take the Dremel, cut this section out right here so I can pop those out, but then there's a little tab between the fender and the body for whatever reason. I don't know if they use it to line it up, but I'm going to have to pull that far enough away, that fender out far enough away, so I can get this in between and then slide the fender back in. The instructions said you could do this with the fender on still, and that's what I'm hoping, because I don't want to have to pull everything off, unplug all the lights. So I'm hoping I can do that without pulling the fender off. But these tabs come out, and then I believe right over here, these tabs come out. So if I pop these out, and maybe I'll pop this one out too, it'll give me enough play to be able to pull that away a little bit and slide this in there. So the nice thing about it is you can get behind here and squeeze these tabs together and pop them out. So I'm gonna have to cut, looks like I'm gonna have to cut right here, a piece of plastic here, here, and here to be able to pop those tabs. Okay, so that now should allow for me to be able to just pop these clips off
Just pinch from behind, get it past the metal, and then they just pull out of place. I got this mounted in, this position 2 mount. I was able to pull it out a little ways. There's 2 bolts that hold the fender on towards the front that I loosened up so I could pull it away just enough gap to slide this metal piece in between there. The holes line up with the existing holes in the fender and the body. And then, instead of putting these tabs back in that are stock on the Jeep, American Adventure Labs provides these almost like square washers or rectangular washers that have these little square tabs, raised tabs, that go right in these raised or square holes right here in the fender. So all these do is pop in place like that, act as a washer, and then you just bolt through to your nut on the other side. That's one of the reasons I had to cut these plastic pieces out, not only so I could get those clips out, but those bolts go right into place where these plastic tabs were kind of blocking there. So it's going to be the same here and back in this corner where this one goes on. It goes on, I think, at these 2 points right here. So we'll get this one kind of tacked in a little bit, and then I'll get this tacked in, and we'll make some measurements for cutting that plastic. Okay, I kind of dry fitted the fender liner in there, and I found that it runs right here, and this plug right here that is Christmas tree plugged in right here is going to need to be rerouted. So I got to pop this off of here and then figure out either zip tie it or find another place that it's out of the way, because that fender goes right here. I'm not sure if it'll pinch in there as well, but it was definitely hitting on the plug right here. So that looks like I may just get a zip tie and zip tie that right there out of the way. But that's, so far, that's the only thing that I see hitting. Okay, there it is in place. I don't have any of the fittings. They all line up right there. And this plug over here, I did have to move, and there's a gap here to allow for that plug or those wires to feed through there. So the initial fitting looks good. It follows the line, the body line here. I think I'll have enough of a gap. There's just a little bit of a gap between all of this that I should be able to, when I trim that plastic, be able to tuck the plastic behind this whole line here, and it'll sandwich and hold that plastic liner in place, keeping this a nice, at least clean undercarriage. So I'm going to tighten everything up. I'm going to take this out, cut the plastic, put the plastic back on, and then I'll trim a little bit to fit in place, and we'll see what I need to do after that. So here's the inner fender liner. You can see my yellow line where I want to cut, and this is the keep side, and this is the cutaway side. So I'm cutting the lower side where the metal liner is going to cover. I'm going to take some painter's tape and just run the line, the painter's tape, on the cut side of the line, so I know I've got a little bit of a tab, so I cut a little bit longer than I need, and I can always go back and trim it up a little bit. Okay, there's my cut line. I'm going to stay on the cut side of this blue tape, and I may even give it a little bit more, but you can see all the mounting holes that the fender liner underneath is still going to mount to. So I've got plenty of mounting locations that won't interfere with the fender. Okay, so here's the point of no return. Okay, there we have it. That'll be the inner fender liner. You can see how flimsy it is. It lost half of its mass. I'm going to get that mounted up in there, and then I'll trim in place with the metal liner in there. Pretty flimsy, but it should just tuck in behind here. Okay, plastic's all in, it's all connected. The bolts and most of the Christmas tree mounting points are all on there. I didn't cut them out. There it is, it's all mocked up. It's fitted in, all the fittings are attached. The one back up in here and the one down here. So this is fitting number 1, number 2, number 3 is up in here, and number 4 is down in this corner here. All of them are hooked up. I don't have these bolts in yet. I'll get those in. I'm gonna put some Loctite on it, but I didn't want to take it apart. I'm gonna pull it off. You can see the plastic's all up in there. So I've got clean, easy to clean. All the wires are covered. The plastic comes around. I actually use the heat gun a little bit in here and kind of wrap this edge around here. I had to leave a little gap in here so you could get a tool, an Allen wrench in here, and get the 1/4 inch turn on these fittings. Otherwise, if there's not a gap here, number 1, you have to have this off before you attach it, and you can't get in there to 1/4 turn it if you want to pull it off to clean behind there or anything like that. So I'm going to pull this side off at least, get it all cleaned up, all that tape off of there, put it back on, get this all buttoned up, and then I think I'm done. So get to that point now. This is nice. The one thing I liked about these, this American Adventure Lab, is just a 1/4 turn on these, and they come out. That just comes off like that. Of course, it won't be that easy when this other side is hooked up. I've got to take off this other 2 sides and then pull the thing out. But there you go. It's a quick release. You can get in there, clean out, work on anything you need to work on in there, and then clip it back on there. I'm gonna clean it up a little bit and get the wheel back on, and we'll get to the other side. All right, there you go. It's all in. All the wires are protected underneath. Looks good. So, got her done. Okay, I closed the garage so it wouldn't have quite so much glare. But there is the finished product on the driver's side at least. Got the lights up in the wheel well so you can kind of see the finished product. I like that American Adventure Lab was able to match the gold or the bronze tones
matching up with the, you know, the badging and the different colors on the 392. The inner fender liner looks good. You can see that I kept the plastic up there. A little bit of modification, but it'll keep all that protected. I'll get this Jeep pulled out, moved over, and start working on the other side. Okay, it's the next day, and I finished up both sides. There's the driver's side, a little bad lighting outside. It's gonna be hard to tell. Here's the passenger side, see if that's any better. I'm gonna edit the video and not show the process on the passenger side. It's pretty much the same as the driver's side. Nothing really different goes on, except this is 2 pieces on the passenger side instead of 3. It goes on basically the same way. The cuts and everything, you can actually still see my yellow line a little bit from where I traced, so the actual cut was, you know, that much farther. Still on this side, you have to do the same thing, have that gap in there so you can get a tool up in there. I may have cut this longer in the future if I did it again, and cut it longer and then wrap that plastic more. This is just the edge of the plastic. It's smooth and clean, but if I wrap it around, it'd be just a little smoother in there. But the process is what it is. It would have gone faster if I wasn't making a video of it, but it's not terribly hard. If you're just going to install just the fender liners, they'll go on pretty easy. If you're trying to modify the plastic, that's a little more work and a little more attention to detail. So just wanted to cover that. Let me know if you have any questions. I appreciate the viewership and the people that have subscribed. I'm surprised. Anyway, thanks for watching.